Part 1. The Madman with a Crown. You think being a Roman emperor was all about dignity and ruling the world. Forget that heroic nonsense. Today we meet Nero, the emperor officially recognized by history, the absolute lord of absurdity of the Roman Empire. A man with absolute power in his hands, but with one burning, passionate dream to be a pop star. Yes, you heard me right. Nero treated being emperor as a part-time gig. His real passion was strumming the lyre and belting out songs so melodic they made listeners want to reset their life. The only problem was, Nero was a horrible singer. His voice sounded like a male duck getting strangled. But because he was the emperor, nobody dared to tell him. And so, a national-level musical disaster officially began. Part 2. The Concert from Hell. To satisfy his passion, Nero hosted his own musical live shows. He forced thousands of officials, nobles, and common people to attend. The theater doors were locked tight from the outside by the Praetorian Guard. The rule was simple. When Nero starts singing, nobody leaves. The performance lasted not 1 hour, not 2 hours, but continuously for 10 to 12 hours straight. Imagine having to sit through a terrible singer for half a day. This brutal torture drove the audience completely insane. Several pregnant women actually gave birth right there in the stands. Some people were so desperate they jumped off the high walls to commit suicide. But the cleverest were a few crafty men. They decided to fake their own deaths. They fell to the ground, stopped breathing, spasmed convincingly. So the guards thought they were dead and carried them out for burial. And that was the only way to escape the emperor's singing. Escaping by faking your own death during a concert now, that is the peak of absurd history. Part 3. Rome is burning. But the crown of singer wasn't enough for Nero. In 64 AD, a legendary great fire burned almost the entire city of Rome to the ground. The fire raged furiously for 6 days and 7 nights, while the people panicked, screamed in despair, and fled for their lives. What did Nero do? He climbed to the top of the highest tower in his palace, dressed in a magnificent stage costume, holding his lyre, looking down at the city raging in flames, and began to sing a poem about the fall of Troy. Yes, the city is burning, and the emperor is standing on the roof, making poetry and singing. Rumors spread like wildfire. Nero himself set Rome on fire. Why would he do that? Because he wanted to flatten the old, ugly neighborhoods, to clear space to build a super-duper golden palace just for himself. When he realized the people were furious and wanted to revolt and hang him, Nero came up with a classic scapegoat trick. He pointed his finger at a small group of young Christians and declared, "They did it, not me." Truly the lord of blame shifting. He commits the crime, someone else does the time. Part 4. Olympic cheater. In 67 AD, Nero decided to compete in the Olympic Games in Greece. Yes, the Roman emperor himself wanted to compete in sports. He registered for the 10-horse chariot race. Very other competitor humble rode for horse chariots. Nero confidently rode this massive, extremely clumsy 10-horse contraption. And what happened? At the very first turn, Nero lost control of the chariot and was flung violently out. He lay flattened on the ground, face full of mud, flung 10 meters away. He couldn't even finish the race. But guess who won the gold medal? You guessed it. The Olympic judges still awarded the championship to Nero. Their reasoning was extremely convincing. If the emperor hadn't fallen, he definitely would have won. Nero happily accepted the gold medal, took it home, and proudly declared himself the greatest athlete in history. Victory by skill. No. Victory by power. Part 5. The final show. Nero's madness and excessive spending finally pushed the army's patience too far. The Senate and the generals launched a joint revolt. They declared Nero a public enemy, and a nationwide manhunt began. Realizing his Praetorian Guard had deserted him, Nero panicked and fled his palace in the middle of the night. He hid in a small servant's house on the outskirts of the city. Hearing the horse hooves of the pursuing cavalry getting closer, Nero knew there was no escape. He held up a small dagger to commit suicide, but because he was too cowardly, he couldn't bring himself to plunge it into his own neck. He had to beg a servant to help push the dagger down. And just before his final breath, Nero uttered an immortal final phrase, "Qualis artifex pareo." In English, this means, "What an artist dies in me." Until his very last second, he still thought he was a misunderstood musical genius. Nero died at age 30, ending the reign of the most deranged emperor of Rome. He proved to the world one truth: give a madman a microphone, he's dangerous. Give a madman an empire, he's a disaster. Subscribe to the channel right now to not miss the next absurd history stories. Bye-bye.